for this time, feel free to just enjoy. Okay, let's go back to sharing our screen. Okay. I'm Aquila Maddox, and I will be your, presenter for this presentation. I am known also as the Inspirationalist, and I am a relationship enhancer and a confidence coach, where I absolutely love what I do. So my goal is to, to add value and to also help enhance the way you see, which brings us to. Hold on, I think my slides are acting weird. They are. Okay, alrighty, there we go. Awesome, okay, cool. So Perspective Rehab is what's hosting this, which is one of the programs that I offer, because I believe that the way we see is extremely important. And it really changes the way we do life, the way we approach our goals, the way we approach our relationships is all based off of how we see. So I wanted to enhance the way you see and you do life and relationships. So that's what Perspective Rehab is really set up to do. Really just give you an opportunity of rehabilitating the way you see. And we're going to talk about professional relationships, which are business, colleagues, networking, and random connections. I oftentimes make random connections any and everywhere, and you kind of don't know where they'll fall in alignment with your journey, but they become valuable many times. So I want to encourage that. We're also going to talk about love relationships, your family, your friends, and romantic relationships just the same. All of these relationships impact your personal perspective about your life, and it impacts your quality of life as well. Have you ever felt like you've wasted your good time on a relationship, right? Being in a relationship with someone, whether it was a draining friendship, a lazy partner, selfish lover. And so, as I stated before, your relationships have a major impact on your quality of life. So having these daunting relationship experiences really pose a negative perspective around connecting with people. So while I'm a firm believer that there's nothing wasted in your journey of life, my mother was prone to say this all the time, and nothing wasted. But I also believe that a lot of individuals are building relationships aimlessly without any guidance. I believe the reality is the education that people receive on developing relationships is pretty basic. The knowledge is also taught at a very early age, right? And while this information evolves slightly as you get older, there's still some very basic guidance that's given around how you should connect with people. It usually includes making sure you hang out with individuals who aren't encouraging you to do things that are illegal and stuff like that, okay? Why are you here? You are here because, I'm on one. Okay. Y'all don't judge me. I'm out here trying to get my slides together. Why are you here? That was what we just discussed, right? So part 2, I believe you're here because of, as well, there are insufficiencies in our relationship connections. There's a lot of unhealthy relationships, relationship practices, and unfulfilled purpose. I've heard many individuals say, man, I wish I wouldn't have wasted time in that relationship. Have you said that? I've witnessed many instances of people reprioritizing their relationships. I mean, they're like, girl, I'm about to, start cutting out this. And I've heard, fellas say it just the same, like, listen, I'm about to clear my social media listing out. I'm about to go through my phone book, and I'm about to totally, restructure how I'm doing relationship with people. I'm changing some things. If I find this person isn't supportive, there isn't value. People are deleting, like I said, creating distance. I want to make sure that the people around me are positive, progressing, things like that. And all of these efforts are an attempt to exit unproductive relationships. Have you done any of those things? Do you desire to have more productive and purposeful connections? If you do, then you're definitely in the right place. But I have a question for you. Do you know the purpose of relationships? While many people don't go into relationships, thinking about that, but the relationships have a purpose. They don't consider whether or not a relationship is in alignment with purpose. They usually are making connections on how they feel in the moment. So oftentimes, when you guys are making connections, we go off of how we feel. Like, I feel like this person is nice. I feel like this person is cool. I feel like they're laid back. And so we usually are making connections based on that. And so while your feelings are valuable, I don't feel like they're always factual representation of your discernment. Because sometimes we might discern that a person is cool. We may discern that a person is nice. But again, because we're not recognizing that purpose should be the focus of the relationship, those discernments we begin to classify our discernment as wrong or broken because the relationship doesn't pan out the way we had anticipated. And so what I wanted to say is, I moved my thing before, sorry. Okay. Relationships should carry you somewhere. Relationships are a mode of transportation on your journey of purpose. Relationships, I believe, I believe God is intentional. And so I think that name speaks for itself. It's how we connect. So relate. We're relating and connecting, but it's a ship. You should be taking me somewhere. I should be taking you somewhere. So by the end of this presentation, you should be somewhere different than you were when you came in. You should be further along, whether it's advancement, perspective, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. You should be going somewhere. There should be movement. Your relationship should take you somewhere, no matter how long or short of a distance. No matter what the goal is for that specific relationship, the ultimate goal beyond anything is for there to be movement. Your experience in life will only go as far as your relationships will take you. So if you have limited connections, you will have limited experiences. Now, some people may say, cool, I don't think that's right. Well, because I've got really great experiences and I still got a small circle. Well, having a small circle isn't my issue. It's understanding that not all relationships are going to be as intimate, and you can still advance in your journey in various ways. Like I just stated, all these different ways, whether it's wisdom, experiences, knowledge, education, whatever it is, you are going to be able to have greater experiences depending on the way that you maneuver in your connections. And sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to be used. We're all going to be used. That is that's one of the myths, if you will, that I want to debunk. Nobody wants to be used, and that is totally far off. We are all going to be used because each one of us have purpose. Each one of us is a part of the ship connection. And so we are all going to aid in somebody else's advancement. And now the thing is I want you to be strategic about how you advance and who you advance, because I don't believe all relationship connections are created equal, but I also don't believe that all relationship connections should even exist. Sometimes we are prematurely classifying our relationships without having enough information. Okay. So the truth is that here's our choosing, right? How do we choose? Like I said it before, our relationship connections are developed at a very early age. What do we start out with when we're younger? Make sure that this person is going to keep you in a, safe environment. Do you remember that when your parents or your guardians were talking to you about friends? Are they a good example for you? Are these people going to cause you to be disrespectful to me? Are these people going to put you in a position where they are promoting self-destruction? Are they, what are these people doing anything that is negatively impacting your journey, your purpose, or the way you view yourself? And then we also go with very simplified similarities. Hey, how do we make a connection? Hey, there goes a little girl who's a girl like you, so make a connection. There goes a person who has ponytails like you, make a connection. That boy over there has a basketball. Let's make a connection, right? That person over there has, these kind of shoes on, make a connection, whatever it is, right? They have blue on. So we learn at an early age to identify with very simple connections. And that is usually how we begin to establish our relationship. But where are we today? Pretty much choosing the same way. We are pretty much choosing our relationship connections on the same way. whether it's professionally or whether it's interpersonally, we are still making these, we're identifying whether or not a person is valuable, or even, kind of, that's the way we leverage whether or not we're going to even approach them sometimes, is based on similarity. If we see a person that we feel is, a little more different than we are, we usually kind of, withdraw from that scenario. We have situations where, you may say, okay, I'm in this uncomfortable setting. I don't know anybody. What do we automatically do? We look for the most comfortable connection. What impacts are choosing and connections? The way you see yourself, your lens, okay? Whether it's worthiness or valuable, right? Whether you see yourself as confident, or if your insecurities are the lens that you're seeing through. You see yourself through it, you can see through experiences, sheltered, shy, any examples, right? So any examples that you have of relationship, what does that mean? The example you have of relationship will be, there we go. The example that you have of relationships in your family, in any type of setting where you are seeing them on a constant basis, that impacts how you begin to establish, again, how to connect with others. So if you're seeing other people along your journey who is connecting by way of, again, similarities, then we begin to mimic that. If you're seeing, if you don't see any of your family, close family connecting, you sometimes we start to model that. A lot of times people are like, well, I didn't really see my family invite people into our home setting that we didn't know. I didn't really see my mother or my father talk to people in the grocery store who we consider strangers. We were like, no, absolutely not. We're not connecting with people in that way. And so this is another way that we began to choose or connect in relationships. Another one is disappointments. Sometimes we, and of course successes as well, but disappointments begins to have an impact again on the way that we choose. Again, whether it's our family, our friends, professionally, our loved ones, whatever it is, people that you've done a relationship with. And all of this could have stemmed from something that happened very early on when you were a younger child. So one of the things, just a quick story, when we're talking about what impacts our choosing, is I remember seeing my mother connect with people, and my dad was an entrepreneur, or a business owner, more or less. He owned a mechanic shop. I saw my parents constantly talk to strangers. I constantly saw them, even if it was just simply a greeting. Hello, how are you doing? Man, the weather is nice today. That was the example that was provided for me. So although I was shy growing up, that was the example that I saw. So it wasn't unfamiliar that even through my shyness, as I began to evolve and become more comfortable around people, it wasn't uncommon for me to make a connection with people in such a simple fashion. Like, oh, hey, the sun is shining, ain't the weather nice? And it was because this was the example that was also set before me. Why does perspective matter? Because you choose to the level of your vision. If you see low, you choose low. If you see high, you choose high. So I'm excited to share this content because people don't really, I believe a lot of times we dismiss the power of perspective, not realizing that the set of glasses in which you see through, which is what I'm calling your lens, it really impacts, again, how you see yourself as well as how you see and connect with others. I believe that God gave us this invitation to say, hey, listen, sometimes your lenses are broken, they're cloudy, they're blurry. So use my lens. And that's why when we in my world, and I'm sharing this again from my perspective of being a believer in God, whether you believe in God or a higher power, oftentimes even having, that connection allows you to borrow the lens of someone greater than yourself. Because not on every day, every situation, and every season will the lens you have for yourself be as clear. I've had experiences. I've shared my story all over social media. I've shared it in public and on stages and in all kinds of settings where I talk about the experiences in my life that impacted the way that I began to see myself, which I counted myself out, saw myself unworthy, saw myself as unsuitable, and it began to affect how I connected with people and the choices that I made. So if you think about your vision, and you think about elevating your vision. Aquila, what does this really look like? Or give me I'll give you another way to view this. If you go in a grocery store and you have a kid, it don't have to be your own kid, you can borrow a kid, whatever way. But you go into the grocery store and you're walking in the toy aisle. Now, in this aisle is everything a child can dream of. They want, listen, there's toys, there's, that are there. There's trucks, there's Barbies, there's whatever. Doesn't matter what, sex of child you have. It's everything they need is in this aisle. Well, them having you gives them access to elevated vision, because their vision can only see at their own level. So even if they raise their head, they still are limited on the view that they'll have above themselves. So there may be so much more that they're missing out on because of the fact that their vision isn't elevated enough. Well, wait, you're there. And you have an elevated perspective that allows you to be able to extend their vision even further. And that's what I believe the beauty of a higher power, God, whatever you want to call it, it works in our lives, because it's like when I can't see myself any higher, I'm raising my head as high as I can. I'm feeling at my absolute best, or I'm feeling at my absolute worst, and I'm still raising my head high. But I'm still not being able to see at the highest level. So there is so much more in my experiences in this aisle, in this journey, in this life, where everything that I need is available to me, but I'm missing the opportunity to select it because I'm not seeing high enough. So we need new basic needs for connection, right? So you know how I said you're connecting on the, your need for connection is real basic. We're going to change this basics now. The basics that I really believe are absolute, beyond a shadow of a doubt, important is your patience and your trust. These are the basic needs for connections and relationships. Your patience, because you have to discover if a person is who they say they are. People are like, let me tell you, I am blessed to say that I had so many amazing relationships. I thank God for them every single day, and I mean it. However, people are often questioning, like, how do you have such an amazing tribe, community, support system, or whatever, right? Patience. Because not every person that I connected with were we in relationship or close relationship with right away. Not at all. So you have to be patient with yourself, patient with the process, and patient with the person that you're trying to connect with, okay? So you want to get to know them. You're asking questions. See if it's even in alignment, right? A lot of times, again, our questions are so simplified that, again, we are missing an opportunity to really get to something greater. Elevate your perspective, right? And through elevated perspective, we can now go into some deeper questions. Sometimes it makes people feel uncomfortable, but as you grow in confidence and understanding that this relationship is, it owes me purpose, then you are no longer going to, you're no longer going to position yourself to forsake. Sorry. You're no longer going to position yourself to forsake the questioning portion of your relationship. Okay, this is absolutely imperative. And sometimes you say, well, what question should I ask? A lot of times people ask very simple questions like, well, what is it that you do? Right? That, believe it or not, as much as you might hear networking specialists and experts say that you need to come with a different question, hey, I'm of the mind, you gotta start where you can. Take baby steps. So you may ask them, hey, what is it that you do? How did you get into the field that you got into? Where is it that you plan on going in your career journey, business, or path? So those are questions. You don't got to do the standard 5-year plan question, 1 year. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I mean, we don't even have to do that. We can simply say, hey, where is it that you would like this journey to take you? What is your dreams? What is your goals? You know what I mean? Because sometimes we have to recognize that person's validity isn't in today. It may be in 5 years. It may be in 2 years, because they may say something that they have along their journey as far as to their goals, their visions, or dreams. That may be where you guys align. So you may be able to say, you know what? Your dream and goal is similar to mine. So with that being said, this might be something that I may want to, again, I want to get in on this ship because I recognize this may take me somewhere. I may be able to get some information on a process or, a strategy or something. You never know. Or share that. or share the process or share the strategy, you know? So, uh-oh, I keep pushing these guys, sorry. So, okay, let me go back. Uh-oh, I'm still pushing buttons. And go. Okay. So patience, right? Everyone isn't as open to begin with the relationship, right? And they understand that they're learning you as well. So again, you have to be patient, okay? Value, like I said, isn't always seen right away. Trust. You have to be open to the idea of new connections. I know I've heard a lot of people say hashtag no new friends. And while I believe that I swear I understand why people come to that. Again, I'm gonna be honest, it's a real limiting life journey to say hashtag no new friends. There's levels to this, right? And Facebook is one of the platforms that has taught us that there's levels to this, because what do we call our connections on Facebook? Friends. And while they may not be deep connections, they're still a connection. So there's levels to your friendship. You may feel like, this is my outer core friendships, and then these are my more inner core friendships. So I would say you want to remain open, okay? That not everybody's trying to rob you or take something from you either. A lot of times when we are showing up in relationships, we've already discounted the person's ability to be trusted, because we're like, what do they want from me? But remember what I told you. I want to dispel the lie that it is, or dispel the myth that, for us to recognize that we're all going to be used. We're all going to be used. Every single person along this journey is going to be used in some capacity, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. We're all going to be used. You have to be ready to reveal. A lot of times we are showing up in our relationship connections very closed and guarded. It's okay to be in that place initially, but you want to grow in openness, okay? You got to be open to sharing who you are. Authentic connections of value and longevity are founded on intimacy. I can tell you that some of the most, again, my valuable relationships, I had to share me first. They like, oh, you putting your personal business out here like this. You know what I'm saying? And you're sharing something personal with me. It doesn't even have to be obviously like, your way back story of, what has occurred to you in your childhood. It doesn't have to be that. But people can tell when you're open and you're authentic and you're really trying to make a genuine connection, or if you're trying to keep the relationship shallow. If you're only keeping it surface, so how's everything going? How are the kids? You don't ask the kids' names. You don't ask, how old they are. People can tell, you know what I'm saying? What company you work for. Oh, what do you do? Oh, that's nice. People can tell when you're not trying to go deeper in the relationship. And that is for people, again, who understand these concepts and principles that I'm sharing, that's a red flag. They're like, I'm good. I'm not even going to waste my time, because I realize that you're not here for a genuine connection. You're definitely here just to get something. And there's a difference in building a relationship, understanding that we're going to have an exchange of purpose, and a person who's coming to suck the life out of you. It's a difference. I just wanted to clarify that. Okay. You don't have to babysit your connections either. So when we lack trust, sometimes we're like, you know what, maybe I need to talk to them every day or every week in order for this relationship to remain in existence. And I have found that some of my connections will reconnect, and, it could be a year later. And they're like, girl, I'm so sorry that I haven't talked to you in a year, but I really need you. Or, hey, I've had any and everybody, men and women alike. Everybody usually feels guilty because they're not maintaining an everyday relationship of talking on the phone. Do you know how draining that would be? That's not even always realistic. So maybe you shoot a message. Maybe you say, hey, just checking in, seeing how you're doing, and let's schedule a very intentional 30-minute connection, or conversation, just so we can say hi and see how things going. And you may only do that but once a month. It can be, you don't want to make this process of relationship building so daunting that you definitely are not going to be able to healthily leverage it. You don't want to do that. So you do not have to babysit your connections. Trust that if, again, we're talking about, because in patience, I'm going to learn if you're the babysitting type. In patience, I'm going to learn if you want me to babysit you. In patience, I'm going to learn whether or not this is even worth it. right? Because if I have to go, I'm just being honest with you. I tell people all the time, even my new connections, I said, if I have to, talk to you every day for you to realize that our relationship or friendship has value, or that I'm going to be here for you as a connection, that's too weighty for me. So I let people know, honestly, sometimes I have to let people know that, like, what is your expectation? So again, it goes back to our questions. What is the expectation? Understanding that this relationship is a relationship of purpose. What is the expectation that you have of me in this relationship? Okay. What is it that what is your communication style? Do you prefer calling or text messaging? I'm a person who will call, but I usually try to send people a text. Majority of the time I'll send you a text first, because I don't want to impose. And I'm like, hey, was interested in connecting with you. What's a good day for us to talk? It doesn't matter if you tell me a week from now. It doesn't matter if you tell me that this month is not good. Then, because I'm intentional, I will put a calendar reminder in my phone to follow up with that person, to make sure, because my genuine goal is to build a relationship with that person. I may not see the purpose of it now, but again, I may not see the value now, but I've established that there's purpose in that relationship. So here goes the fun part. I didn't write a whole lot of notes here because it's really quite simple. Type versus standard. Your type. A lot of times when we're identifying, because like I just gave you a little bit of backstory about choosing, how we get to the place of choosing, what impacts our choosing, right? Well, your type. What is your type? People are like, well, I really don't know if I have a type. Now, I'm going to be honest. I was one of those people like, do I have a type? Well, I believe we have like two groups of types. You've got like your professional group relationships, which I listed before. You've got that's a type. And then you've got types for like your loving relationships. The people you might classify as family, the people you classify as friends, and the people you classify as somebody you might want to be romantically involved with. They have a type. And then you've got your professional relationships that have a type as well. What is a type in a professional setting? It may be according to the way a person dresses. If they're in a suit, or if they're or if they're in a jumpsuit that reflects that they're doing a skill or a trade. It may be, it may be their nationality. It may be, honestly, height. You'd be surprised how we connect with somebody because of things like that, but it's true. These can be your types, or it could be the type of job that they're performing. You could be in the medical field, and the type of people you want to connect with are just simply those in the medical field. You could be a person who is a mechanic, and you just want to connect with people who loves cars. Your type can be all of these different classifications of people. It can be based off of the fact that it can be based off of what type of events they go to. Some people look for connections, even if you think on social media, what type of person, the person, depending on what kind of groups they're in. So these are your types, okay, as it pertains to professional. When it comes to your types, when it comes to your interpersonal relationships, it can be, yet again, something as simple as looks. It can be height. It can be nationality. But it could also be their faith. Right? A person who is a Buddhist, a person who's a Christian, a person who's a Muslim, a person who, whatever it is, you're like, that's my type of person that I want to connect with. I can see they're wearing a hijab, so I want to connect with that person. It could be a type of person that says, oh man, they're speaking Spanish. That's a person. So language can be a type. There's all of these versions of type that we began to kind of subconsciously, and in some cases consciously, make a decision to connect by. Okay. But here's where it to me, this is the challenge now. Okay. This is where it gets good to me, because now I want you to no longer choose from type alone. Wipe that out. If you can think of this as a dry erase board, I'm wiping out type, because in order for you to, again, advance in purpose in life, in your professional life, whether that's your business or career, you got to get rid of type. And now it becomes about something greater, which is a standard. Okay. Now, when I first got introduced to this revelation, I thought to myself, self said, huh? I said, are you kidding me? Like, this whole time, I began to realize that this is literally the way that I began to make decisions based off of the relationships I'm going to develop or build upon, was a standard. So although it was a revelation to me, it was something that I can genuinely say is working. And I'm going to give you some good information for both sides. Okay. So standard. Very simple. I believe there's only 3 ways. I kept praying about this thing like, Lord, is that it? Just 3 ways to see a standard? Yes. I believe there's 3 ways. It's the standard, your foundation, right? Because everything in this life has one of those. You have a foundation as far as to your character, your being, how you live, how you speak, rather how you view education, whatever. Everybody has a foundation that has been laid for them. I am a Bible reader, so I may throw some word in here with y'all because that is what also for me encourages the standard. So for me, when you think about, again, like this foundation, you know, you think about the fact that, like, even if you have a house, in order for anything to stand, it's got to have a foundation. If you think about a chair, the foundation of the chair is the legs in order for it to stand. Okay. So everything in this life has a foundation. So I want you to identify people or identify with people, or even connect with people that may have a similar foundation. And you say, well, Aquila, well, isn't that a type? No, because you got to dig into that. You got to actually have a conversation with somebody to find out the foundation. Do you realize that a foundation is usually, even if you think about buildings, it's underground. It's not something that is you just get automatic exposure to all the time. This is something you got to dig a little deeper into. Okay. In fact, even when you think of a chair or a table and the foundation of that, the legs are actually not just the legs. It's the legs, the screws, it's the little boards that are under there, that crosses and keeps it sturdy and all of that. In order to really see how that foundation is built, you got to go under, you got to go deeper. So I want you to, again, that goes back to our asking questions. What is the foundation, right? You may just simply ask, again, as you're getting to know, that may be something. You may not come straight out and be like, hey, what's your foundation? What can you tell me of the foundation that you've been standing on this whole time in your 38 years of living? Like, wait, what? But you begin to understand how a person's thoughts are founded, right? So there's another, or how their character and things like that, how their discipline is founded. Okay, how their education is founded, their level of intelligence is founded. Some people's intelligence is founded on education, right? Because they're saying, I've gone to school for this many years. Some people's education is founded on study, personal growth, research, and things like that, or experiences. You have to dig deeper. You can't look at anybody and tell they went to college. You can't look at anybody until they didn't go to college. You can't look at people and just automatically assume they're not, what foundation of faith they stand on. So you have to dig deeper. Number 2, we've got a horizontal way, right? Your horizontal way, meaning it's going this way, is their level of consistency. What does that mean? That means, like, one of the types that I wanted to use as an example is a person who say, hey, you know what? I like a person who goes to the gym. That's the type. But the standard may be having a person who goes to the gym every day. Or the standard may be connecting with a person who works out twice a week. Are they lifting weights, or are they doing cardio? That is your consistency. How often they are doing a thing. What is the manner in which they are continually, operating in their purpose, or fulfill or connecting with a purpose. Okay. So as it pertains to, let's say, your professional relationships, a person may be in corporate America, right? That's a type. But what is the standard? The standard may be that they are, or they're horizontal, their consistency is maybe they work in the office every day. Maybe it's something that their consistency is they've been in one position and they've constantly grown and moved up, up, up. That's their consistency. Their consistency is constantly, or their consistency could be that they've just been in the same position for 10 years. And that's their level of consistency. But maybe you want to identify with or learn from a person who has had that type of consistency in the corporate world, right? How did you get to the place where you've gotten to the position you wanted and then you maintained it, right? So consistency there. Your consistency can also be, be around I think I just lost my thought. I did. Oh, business wise. Thank you, Lord. So in business connections, you say, well, how does this apply to me if I'm in a business? And what is their level of consistency? Are they part-time in business? Meaning they work a job a 9 to 5, and that's their primary job or role, and then they do a business part-time? Or is there consistency that they're operating in business in a brick and mortar every day? Do they operate in a brick and mortar only on weekends? Do they only, is there consistency that they're online? What is their consistency, even when it pertains to business? Is it the fact that their primary job is their side hustle, although it's got the, it's seemingly the most hours, but their primary goal and focus is building a business? Their level of consistency, again, is what I want you to begin to identify with, but again, through asking questions. Conversation and communication is listen, your relationship will only go as far as your communication. So if we ain't talking, then this relationship ain't walking. We're not going nowhere. So again, with everything that I'm telling you is going to require you to communicate, okay? So the next level of standard, the last and final level of standard, is your vertical connection, right? There's levels to this. So your vertical connection is, again, how they, what level they're on in something, whether they're beginning, whether they're intermediate, or whatever the case, or they're an expert level. Why is that imperative? Well, it's important because you may not, we said, well, Queen, what good would it be? Why would anybody want to connect with a beginner? How many of us have had things that we have not done, we're not familiar with whatsoever? Whether it is a person who just started changing their eating habits, and they're like, oh, you just started? I want to get started. How did you start? That's why people want to connect with beginners, because it is at a comfortable level for me to at least get my feet wet. It gives me the access to be able to get the information that I need, because maybe the expert level is more expensive. It's more inundated. I may not be ready for that quite yet. So beginners, there's levels to this. Everybody has value, even in the vertical standard. Everybody does. When I first started, let me tell you, when I first started working out one time, listen, this ain't today's world. I do a little something today. In real life, I worked out about consistently, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And I wanted to connect with people that weren't intimidating. Cause I'm just telling you, I ain't got no muscles like that. So because I ain't got muscles like that, and you talking about, well, just go in the gym and just start out, lifting, I don't know, 100 pounds, that sounds like a lot. You know what I mean? So I'm like, let me talk to somebody who's running a treadmill. You know what I'm saying? Let me talk to somebody who's walking the neighborhood. So I wanted to connect with somebody. It was still an elevated standard above where I was at, because I wasn't even doing anything. So when I say don't choose your type, choose your standard. Now here's what I want you to take away from it. The standard is not to pacify, but it is to expand purpose. So don't pick a standard that keeps you comfortable. Pick a standard that elevates you. So when it comes down to, again, depending on where you are, you want to look up. Okay, what's the next level to this? Right? What is the next level? Because a lot of the people that I connected with, they were at higher standards and levels than I was. So I wasn't just picking my standard as in where I am. I picked the standard that I identified with. I felt like I wanted to be a better parent. So I went and connected with people that I saw did an amazing job, phenomenal job parenting. They were patient with their kids. They weren't trying to recycle them and trade them in for shoes. So I was like, you may be a person I need to talk to. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't, so my standard, because again, we're talking about, we don't always want to go off of our own vision of self. We may have to borrow the lens of the greater. So I may have to take on, God's lens of me and for my life and say, that's my standard. I may not be there yet, but that is my standard. That's mine, right? That 4-pack, okay, or just a flat pack, whichever one it is. That's my standard. That's my standard. That's the one that I want. You know what I mean? I'm not there today, but that's what I want. That's my standard, right? That successful business where people are making money in they sleep with their eyes good and closed and they waking up with good deposits. That's my standard. I'm not there yet where I'm, in a point where I'm just rolling up out of bed on my money or nothing, but that's my standard, right? So again, when you're talking about, when I was in corporate America, I remember being able to, one of the things that I love being in corporate America, by the way. I loved my job. I really did. I know you probably think like, this girl is too optimistic. But I really did. I liked what I did. Well, I didn't see myself doing it forever, but I really did love what I did. I was a tax accountant. What did you do? Yeah, tax accounting. I did tax accounting for American Express. Completely loved it. But what I did is I locked eyes. Now, what's so funny about this? Because I also am on this no plan B journey. So imagine that coincides with where we are. So there, once you begin to lock into this, choosing and elevating your standard, then what you begin to do is you begin to put stuff out in the atmosphere that ain't got no choice but to manifest. So when I was in corporate America, I got hired on. I moved to Arizona from Minneapolis when I was about 24 years old, or 25 or something. Well, anyway, I got hired on in a temporary position, right? And just as I'm telling y'all this right now, this is coming to me just as I'm talking. So this is super awesome for me. But, to share. But anyway, I ended up meeting this lady. I saw this lady, the way she carried herself. There was two ladies. One was black, one was white. They were like powerhouses to me. 2'5" because I'm tall, but they was like, and they shorties. But I promise you, they looked very powerful. It was something about them. So, but wait, discernment should have evidence. That's the reason why you have to be patient, because your discernment should be proven. So if I think they're powerful on the bomb, let me go prove it by having conversation and building a relationship patiently with them. So I began to go over there and say, man, what y'all do over here? And I started making conversation. I also did. Now, let me tell you, although I said we identified in simplicity in the basic form, because of the way we were taught in relationship, don't forsake it, because it's still valuable. It still could be used, but that cannot be the only way we're identifying connections. So I did. I saw them, one of the ladies, and both of them, they just dressed so cute. So I just told them, I was like, you look very beautiful today. And they was like, thank you. I asked them what they do, and they told me what their department did. At that time, it sounded foreign. I was like, this sounds very, I don't know what you just said in English. And I don't even remember them saying taxes. So it was sales and use tax. So that may have been what they said, which still at that time would have sounded unfamiliar to me. And so anyway, I went and I would go over there and just ask more questions, like, tell me about how this works. And I started learning about what they're doing. And I'm like, man, I just said to myself, like, whatever they're doing, I just feel like I may want to do that. For one, they look paid. I'm just being honest. They look paid. I was like, they look paid. They're consistent. They're focused. Like, these are things that I'm looking at. They're standard, right? Their level of focus. How do I know? Because when I tell you that we sat next to each other, so when I say that they would be in that desk, how many of you, might be feeling like you high energy like me, and sometimes it's very hard to focus. So focus can be like something I'm looking at, right? There's levels to this. There's levels that goes in my vertical, or that can go in the horizontal. What's your consistency with focus, or what's your level of focus? So their consistency was focused, and they were like at a higher level. That it don't matter what was going on in that office. Those people were like, they were just dead in, and they were getting their stuff done. And then meanwhile, I'm out after an hour. I need to walk around. I've been sitting in the chair all day. You know what I'm saying? Hey, it's just who I am. So that, and so with that being said, I started to recognize, like, man, their focus is like amazing. So I said it out within myself. I'm like, man, I would really like to connect with her. I get laid off from the position, and I go back to the lady, and I say to her, the black lady, and I say to her, I say, hey, I'm about to leave. My assignment is over, but I would really love to keep in contact with you if you're interested. I'm new to Arizona. I've only been here a couple of months. And, and here's my phone number if you're interested, and she said, sure. And to know her, to be honest, she said, the way she tells the story, she says, Aquila, I probably could have peed on myself, because I'm like, who is this girl trying to, get my information? Because again, people can be nervous about sharing themselves. So anyway, fast forward, I get her information. She invites me over. It was months later. I don't think I talked to her for a while. It was months later. She invited my son and I over to some type of a dinner or something she hosted. So that, again, we're talking about patience. I didn't know if I'd ever hear from her. I wasn't worried about it. Again, I don't got to babysit my relationships. If it's meant to be, it's going to be. I took the step, gave you my phone number. I took hers, and I texted her and let her know, hey, this is me. But again, I still waited, as well. I didn't have anything to talk about, so I wasn't going to call. At that time. And so I think a month or so passed. I think literally maybe a month or two. I probably shot her some text messages and just said, hey, how's it going? She said, cool, but I didn't call. So anyway, she invited us over. Fast forward, like literally, I want to say about a year later. We had now built relationship. She invited me to that dinner. She got to see me and my true, my authentic self again, but in a different setting. And she saw that I was really silly. She invited me to another event, had more of her friends and more of her family. That's an intimate environment because, again, she's learning if I can or cannot be trusted. If I was not, if she felt like I was, if I was a person that was not of the standard in the first invitation, I wouldn't have made it to invitation number 2. It's just the reality of it. And to know her, she's definitely a choosing by standard kind of person. So anyway, I fast forward. Do you know, literally like a year later, she calls me up and she's like, Aquila, a position came open in our department and you came to mind. Now, I don't have any experience doing what they're doing. Okay, none. And she invited me into that space and was like, will you be willing to come interview? And I said, yes. She said, now let me let you in on a little secret. You got the job. And she said, you're coming over and speaking to us and being respectful and things like that. That was something that the director, which was the white lady that I was speaking to, I didn't know who she was. That director, she said, she just appreciated your kindness and just saying hi to her and seeing how her day is going and stuff. And so anyway, they're willing to give you an opportunity and they'll train you. So whatever you don't know, don't even worry about it. So that right there, again, when you talk about like, I saw that was my standard. Then I made a conscious effort to make a connection with my standard, although I wasn't there yet. And then all of a sudden, now what I see myself as and who I am meets. And now it's in alignment and it comes together. And I was able to hold that position for probably 9, almost 10 years. And it was amazing. And so again, my encouragement to you guys, is to understand that the standard doesn't have to be where you are today. Okay. So our next thing, we're going to talk professional connections. Okay. What are you seeking in your personal connection? Like the example I just shared with you. What are you seeking? A person or a purpose? Okay. I believe purpose goes over a person any day, and your purpose should be the priority. God gave you everything you need inside of you so that when you make connections with these people, it's to empower you so that you can feel worthy of the connection. It's to prepare you so that you can be able to have what you need again, right? Whatever that thing is that you need, whether it's the conversation, the introduction, whatever it is, you're going to have what you need. And so that not having lack, nobody can manipulate you through lack or loss. We don't realize how many unhealthy connections we make, even in business, due to the fact that there is a loss or a need. There is a deficit happening in our life. So we're choosing from a low place. So what does that mean? Aquila, does that mean that I'm never going to have any needs? Absolutely not. Relationships are the need and the necessity. But understanding that just as much as that person is a resource, so are you. You are a person of value. And just because they may offer something different than you doesn't make them better than you. So if you see yourself better and you can see them better, then my better get with your better and we can be better together. That's what it should be. Not in a position where you're feeling lowly about yourself and now you are making unhealthy connections and now somebody is putting you in an unhealthy space. Okay? So interpersonal relationships. What's the goal of the relationship? A lot of times when it comes down to, I've had people who genuinely, who has honestly said, let me say that, I don't know if it's genuine, but they've honestly said, I feel like we can be friends. We're going to be good friends. And I can take that at face value and be like, oh, okay, cool. But I know the goal for you, right? Right there. I know at least your spoken goal. But what did I tell you? Patience is necessary when building healthy relationship connections that are purposeful and productive. So now I'm about to see if you said what you mean and meant what you said. You see what I'm saying? So what's the goal? I want to be your friend. When we talk about romantic relationships, a lot of people, I'm just being honest, they got on here and say, I need to know how to find bae, how to find the one. I'm going to give you a few pointers and why this information is also very important. Okay. But to begin, I'm just going to give you a couple of things. Is this relationship in alignment? You have to consider that. Even when it comes to your family relationships, friendship relationships, lover relationships, is it in alignment with where you're going, your standard, We just talked about it. Is it in alignment? If I'm not, and here's the deal. People be like, is alignment mean we do the same thing? Not at all. It does not mean we do the same thing. But it means, again, that we're in alignment, which means we are going the same direction. Some people are not interested in growth and movement. Some people are really cool being where they are. That doesn't make them bad people. But you got to recognize if the person that you're trying to connect with is even interested in moving forward. You're all zealous and talking about let's get together and network and stuff. And they like, I feel like I know enough people. You have to realize that not everybody is interested in this conversation that we're even having here today. I'm not clueless about that. So this is not on everybody's totem pole of let me see how to be intentional in my relationship connections. This is not on the to-do list for people on let me make sure that I am educating myself on how to not waste time in romantic relationships unnecessarily. They are there for the journey. They don't care. And it makes good posts on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Okay. Talked about standards. What's the goal? What are their standards? What is the goal of their standards? Are they trying to, again, elevate? Are they trying to create a level of consistency? Are they trying to get just a summer body? And you got to think about it. A summer body can be meaning that in the figurative sense and the literal sense. In the literal sense, people will go hard. They like, okay, January 1 hit. I need to get it together for this summer body. But know and believe when we get to holiday season, child time, right? So they're interested in making sure that they do exactly what they need to do to reach their goal. And then it's no longer necessarily their lifestyle. So you got to find out if the standards that they have it's only a season. I'm just trying to get to something. Are you grinding hard? And then when you get to the place we coasting, like what we doing, right? You got to find this out because again, everybody, their goals and dreams and visions are not created equal. Personal development, not looked at the same. Okay. Then you got to recognize even internally, right? When it comes to, again, the summer body, are they trying to say, look, I want to connect with whatever faith or whatever the case may be, just so I can get enough information to feel confident. And that's it. That's feel enough so I can, feel good because I'm in a low place and I'm not feeling good about myself. So maybe I want to, start doing, this meditating thing or this praying thing or whatever. That might be something, again, they just doing a summer body, but the spiritual version. Right? So they're like, I just want to just do what I need to do. And then so I can feel better. Okay. I just want to do what I need to do to look better or whatever the case may be. So you got to find out again, what is this person's standards? Okay. And again, their purpose. A lot of times people of purpose connect with people who don't have clarity and purpose, and it becomes a weight. So now you're in a place where you're feeling like you're dragging the relationship on. And you're trying to pull somebody in a direction. Well, here's the thing. You are created to be a seed and water. I believe that, right? The Bible tells us that. This is what I believe. It says that one sows a seed and one waters. But God is the one who brings the revelation, the growth, the increase, the manifestation or whatever, right? So what does that mean? If I can drop a seed in your life or be water in your life and there's movement and progression, then that's something that I want to pay attention to. But if I have to create a whole wagon to drag you along so we can get to the destination, you are a burden. Okay. And people are, Aquila, is that something? I'm answering questions that I get. So just bear with me when I talk to myself. But anyway, they're like, Aquila, but is this something but people are being left behind and left out? Okay. Next, there will be people that are going to be left out because again, and people who are going to be left behind because again, we're talking about choosing standards, right? If you are talking about developing a relationship, especially of romance, if it's not an alignment, it's an assignment. So that means that you might be called just to give them some seeds and give them some water and be like, are you okay? You good? All right. God bless you on your journey. Hopefully you get somebody that aligns with your standard because I'm not going to forsake my standard for the sake of comfort, right? A lot of times we make life be a little too easy for us and we do what's more comfortable because we don't necessarily put ourselves in a position to actually have to do the work. But sometimes our reason for not wanting to do the work is not because we're lazy, it's because we don't feel like we're worthy. So that's why I talked about that. So I want to share this though. What I learned This was very, oh my God, revelational for myself, my own personal journey. I encourage you to always sit and be very present with yourself. So even with the information that I'm giving you, I want you to really sit with this information and see how this aligns to where you are. And be honest with yourself. Without being honest with yourself, then there is not going to be any changes in your life. Your decisions are going to still be the same. You're not going to be able to advance. And you're going to be like, Aquila sold me some lies. I did not. But you got to know where you're starting from. You got to know where you are. So what I learned in my personal journey and experience while I'm sitting here being present, y'all, is I had two different standards. Because I had a standard for my professional relationships and my purposeful relationships. And I had a different standard in my romantic relationships. When I was 24 years old, I had an affair, and that was the most low, like that made me feel so low and like garbage. It's the truth of my life, okay? So that is the view that I began to have of myself, and seeing myself unworthy. I always felt like I got what I deserved when I picked people who were not in the standard that I saw myself, that I knew God would have for my life. You know, the standard that I saw myself when I borrowed the lens of the higher power, the greater that is in me, I wasn't leveraging that view. I was leveraging the view of my pain. I was leveraging the view of my embarrassment. I was leveraging the view of my shame. So that is how I began to make decisions. I chose romantically different. Now, my purposeful relationships, professional relationships, they've been the bomb.com since day one. I have people that I've known for very long periods of time who have been amazing, supportive, loving, kind, comforting, you know, all of those things, right? They've invested in me in multiple ways. I'm just telling you the truth. But my standard as it pertains to my value and purpose and versus the standard that I had in relationship was different because of the way that I saw myself in these two different areas. Know that that is a thing. It's a possibility that you may feel like in relationship, you may feel in your interpersonal relationships, whether it's friendships, lovers, or whatever, you may feel like, well, dag, I do well. You know, I pick well. I realize that maybe we don't belong together, but I pick well, right? There are people who are, you know, on the more healthier side of their journey and things like that. But in my connecting relationships with my purpose, with my profession, those relationships ain't going too hot, right? So there may be a different perspective or lens that you're seeing through as it pertains to these two groups of relationships. Another thing, power perspective. I realized when it came to my romantic relationships that my perspective was stuck at the 24-year-old girl who messed up the relationship. Not just from a place of brokenness, but the last place that I saw a relationship in a healthy capacity where, we were ride or die, y'all. You know what I'm saying? We was great friends and all of that. And so what I was doing was trying to find somebody to pick up where I left off. So even when I was 27, even when I was 32, 33, I'm still trying to find somebody to build with. And it was because I wanted to continue what I had disrupted. The problem with that is building looks different as you get older. See, when you are young, we're building with Legos and blocks and little cabin blocks and stuff like that. That's cute. It is, huh? But when you get older, we're building with income and intelligence and stuff like that. So I was still building on a very elementary level. So I'm just being very honest. This doesn't mean that you got to be like, well, I got to get a woman or a man that's got everything 100% perfect and all together. No. But what I realized is I was getting a lot of people. I was literally, from the lens that I was looking through, I was choosing people who were like me, who were broken, did not see themselves as worthy, just maybe in a different capacity, but it was still their same struggle. They had some level of insecurity that was like heavy weighing. I think a lot of us have some insecurities. I think mostly everybody in the world has an insecurity somewhere, but the weight of that insecurity may not be the same. So the goal, from what I encourage people and through coaching and things like that, is for your insecurities to not weigh so much. I want your confidence to weigh more than your insecurities. So what I was dating was people whose insecurities weigh more than their confidence in relationship, just like me. And so that's how I began to choose. And so I started just picking people who were building in a very elementary stage. So it was like, I'm just being very honest. I was a woman I did well for myself, but I was picking people who were still trying to figure out life. You know what I mean? So sometimes, whether you are a man or a woman, it's just something to notice. that again, what I talk about, when you are a person of purpose and you connect with a person who is still discovering their purpose, you have to be aware, right, of how that's going to impact you. But I want you to be present, okay? Be present in where you really are, because it's okay to say, I want this standard and I'm not there. But it's not okay to feel like you at the standard and not be there. And now you're still not choosing well. Because where you could actually grow, you're missing the opportunity, because you're probably picking somebody that, again, that's putting you in a position where now you've become a burden to them. And so then you say, well, I wonder why my relationships are not working out. Because now the burden isn't on them becoming a burden in your life, but you become a burden in somebody else's life. Okay? So I hope that concludes our presentation. I actually have an ebook that has way more information, because I knew this would be so much to try to cram into this. And it is on Amazon. And it's called exactly what this is called. It's available for pre-order, but it releases Monday. And it is $4.99. But however, because it's way more information, we'd be on here all night. But that concludes the presentation. And I'm going to stop sharing. And I wanted to, see if you guys had any questions, any thoughts or anything like that you wanted to share. And I'm going to stop our recording.